Alright, let's learn how to hand sew a whip stitch for clothing repair. This is optional, but you can use a measuring tool to measure space between stitches. You're going to need pins, a pair of scissors, thread that matches the garment, fabric chalk or fabric pencil, and of course a sewing needle. Yeah! Start by trimming any loose or excess thread from the garment. I'm using the fabric pencil to mark where I want the stitch to begin and end. It's going to be slightly longer than the tear itself. Since the tear is small, I'm just using one pin to hold the fabric in place. Now we're going to thread our needle. In my experience, it's always better to overestimate how much thread you need. Cut one end of the thread at an angle, so it's easier to guide through the eye of the sewing needle. This can take a bit of finessing sometimes. Guide the thread halfway through the eye of the needle, bringing the two ends together. Loop the two thread ends back to the eye of the needle, forming a circle. Pinch the thread ends at the eye and begin wrapping the thread around the body of the needle. You're going to want to loop this around 6 to 8 times. Drag the loops down the needle to the eye and pinch them with the thread ends. Now drag everything off the needle, forming a starting knot at the end. Now that our needle is threaded, we're going to begin our whip stitch through the back of the garment. I demonstrated in the first stitch here what not to do in this case. Since we want to keep the stitch fairly hidden, we want to loop the whip stitch around the base of this hem piece as I'm demonstrating now. Keep making diagonal loops along the tear. The stitch should look like this. To close a stitch pattern, you want to start by anchoring the thread. Don't pass the needle all the way through the fabric and leave a small loop 1 to 3 inches out. Bring the needle through the loop at least 4 times before pulling the needle all the way through completely and closing the loop. You should be left with a knot closing the stitch. Trim the thread off the knot, and now our whip stitch is complete.